Hello, this is Coach Wilson, and this is Unit 1, Day 3. Your journal for the day is going to be about Christopher Columbus. We talked a little bit about Columbus in Day 2. Obviously, he had some lasting impacts on the world as well as with the Spanish influence in the Americas. So just tell me 4 to 5 sentences about that as much as you can. Should be drawing on things that we learned in Day 2. Now, today we're going to be talking about competing claims in North America. So who's involved in the country, who is claiming this new world for themselves, and we're going to focus specifically on North America because this is U.S. history, not the North American continent history. So, after today, you should be able to identify the major countries that are competing for control in North America, specifically kind of the United States area, but that'll also include Canada as well. And also be able to create a conclusion regarding what happened to the colonists at Roanoke. So we're going to kind of get into one of the first settlements in America, but not too far in depth in regards to the settlers. Now, New France is one of the first territories that pops up. The French obviously wanted to get in on what the Spanish had already done, and you're going to see the English, the Dutch, you're going to see all these major countries in the European nations. You're going to see them start to try to travel across the Atlantic and start to claim their land, claim their portion of this new world. Now, Eastern Canada and much of the Midwest is going to end up part of New France. And if you look at this map on the side, you'll notice all this blue, that's France. That's all that they claimed. So they claimed quite a bit very early on. Christian missionaries also made contact with natives. You're going to see a very good relationship between the French and the Native Americans that are living in Canada. You're also going to see a very extensive fur trading network set up. The French were very aggressive in going very deep into the Canadian wilderness, and because of this, they're going to set up good relationships with the natives and being able to trade for furs and various things. But the fur trading network is going to really establish their economy in the northern part of North America. Now, the second group that we're going to talk about is the Dutch, and it's the New Netherland colony. Okay, and the New Netherland colony was basically the upper east coast of the United States, specifically right around New York, and we'll talk about the actual colony that was set up there by the Dutch, known as New Amsterdam in a second. They also are going to be very, very big into fur trading, and they're going to push that fur trading industry, much like the French, into a very significant part of their economy. So they're going to really rely on this fur trade, and those are going to be sent obviously to the New World. But what you're going to see here by both groups and all the groups going forward is that they stop looking at the New World as just a place for resources and realizing that it's a place that they could actually develop it as a new country or a new territory or a new place to basically rule from. Now, as far as the French claims, Giovanni de Verrazzano tried to find a northwest passage in 1524. This is one of the first explorations by the French. In New York today, there's actually a bridge named after Giovanni. It's the Verrazzano Bridge. You cross that. I think it maybe connects Brooklyn and Manhattan. I'd have to go look. But anyways, I don't know my New York geography, okay? I'm sorry for that. Jacques Cartier also was very influential from the French, exploring the St. Lawrence River, which flows, if you're looking at my mouse pointer, flows right down through in this area, all the way from up here in the northeastern part of Canada down into the Great Lakes. Samuel de Champlain is going to actually be the first one to set up a permanent French settlement in Quebec in 1608, so it takes almost 80 years in order to get a actual French settlement that is permanent, that is, growing and starting to flourish. But the French are going to be very active in claiming land, specifically the area around the Mississippi, and they're going to forge very close ties with the natives, as I mentioned before. In regards to the New Netherlands, you're going to see the Dutch make a lot of claims here. Holland was a very, very important nation during this time, and they're going to look to spread their commerce to the New World. And in 1609, Dutch explorer Henry Hudson tried to find a northwest passage, and what they were looking for is a passage to Asia. It's kind of that same philosophy that Columbus had, is they're not looking at this land as a place to, as a place of opportunity, which is what it becomes. They were looking at it more as, this is a place for us to go, get resources, and then move on to where the real resources and trade is in China and Asia. Hudson also explored and claimed the surrounding area along with the Dutch, which would eventually become New Amsterdam and eventually will become New York. And obviously, the Hudson River is named after Henry Hudson, so that kind of gives you another tie there to New York. Now, New York is going to become the central trading spot for the New World, or at least you're going to see a lot of trade come through there. And as we move into the late 1600s, early 1700s, mid 1700s, all those time periods, you're going to start to see New York really becomes that hub of trade and shipping and shipbuilding and all of these various things, and you're going to see a lot of different cultures start to develop there. Now, the Massachusetts Bay Colony is going to pop up sometime around about 1620 to 1630, and it was located in the upper eastern portion of the United States. This was meant to be a religious refuge for Puritans. In England, they had been persecuted and were looking to basically get away and try to find a way that they could have their religion and not be executed or, have to hide in secret and have services. And so what they did is they actually bought out this Massachusetts Bay Company in England. And that way that as they came over, John Winthrop, who ended up being the leader of the company, he actually had the charter with him. So they had no ties to England or an English company. So there was nobody controlling them but themselves in this new world. And for them, that was going to be very, very important. Now, moving into what is more, I don't want to say more important, but more of our country's history in the United States, and that is going to be with the English claims or the claims from England. And it started with Sir Walter Raleigh, who was an English aristocrat and explorer. And Sir Walter Raleigh was very wealthy and was able to fund his own voyages, but he was also supported by the Queen, Elizabeth I. And he's going to actually land in Roanoke Island off the coast of North Carolina and Virginia in 1584. And when he lands, he's going to make some connections with the local Native Americans and kind of, introduce to himself, but not a lasting connection. And we see that as we kind of move forward. Now, here is Roanoke Island, and then just north of here is the Jamestown Colony, which we'll talk about in day 4. So you can see not very far away, but obviously you notice that says the Lost Colony, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about now. So the Roanoke Sound and the Roanoke Island is actually right off the coast of North Carolina, off the mainland, and you can see that here. Up here is Kill Devil Hill and Kitty Hawk, just to give you some references if you guys have ever visited there on vacation. So in 1585, Raleigh is going to come back with 108 soldiers to establish the first English colony. The problem is that when he came, he brought soldiers. He didn't bring families. He didn't bring moms and dads and people who are looking to settle down. He brought soldiers, and soldiers don't have necessarily their best interest of becoming a society or trying to develop a society. They're soldiers, and that's their job. And because of this, the colonists and the natives are going to be at war almost constantly, and eventually the colony is abandoned a year later, and they're forced to go back to England. So in 1587, Raleigh comes back. He decides to try to settle the colony again in 1587, but this time it's going to have 117 colonists. It's important you notice I said colonists, not soldiers. And because of this, they're going to also bring over men, women, and children and families who are going to be able to kind of settle down, make it a home, make it more of a true society. And their governor will be John White, which will become more important here in just a second. And in 1587, John White is forced to return to get supplies. So you see here in 1587, they settle. But then again in 1587, later that year, he's forced to return to England to try to get more things for the colony. And it's important to note, guys, it's not like he's driving to Sam's Club. He's got to sail all the way back to England, which is going to be at least a month and a half voyage. And then he's got to sail all the way back. So you're talking best case scenario, let's say he could do it in 2.5 months. You got 2 months of being left there without your leader, and probably quite a few men who probably went back on the ship with him. And I don't have that exact figure for you. The bigger problem is that when John White gets back to England, England is in the middle of a war with Spain. And the Spanish Armada has now sailed into the English Channel and is looking to try to invade England. As a result, John White's ship gets brought into the war and he's not able to sail back, and it takes him almost 2.5 years to finally get back. And in 1590, he returns to Roanoke to find that his colony is gone and has disappeared. And not just his colony, but his wife and newborn child are both gone as well. The only thing that he could think of is that they had mixed with the Croatan Indians, and he had told the colony that if they left or if they mixed with the Native Americans, to leave a sign on the fort or somewhere that he could see it. And it's disputed which one it was, but they found Croatan on a tree, I believe it was, and CRO in the fort. And essentially, if they had mixed with the Croatan, they were to leave this symbol. Or if they had, I believe if they had been attacked, it was to leave a cross upside down or something like that. Basically, it was somebody leave a symbol to communicate to those settlers when they came back what happened to the colony. Now, in regards to what most likely happened, it's most likely that they joined some of them. It's possible that some of them were murdered, but there is a lot of historical evidence to show that there were actual descendants of the Roanoke or the Croatan Indians that had Roanoke colony heritage. So like their hair, their eyes, some of their features were more like the people who were from the Roanoke colony, not like traditional Native Americans. But that is, once again, up for debate because it is the lost colony. So we have 3 questions today that you need to answer. Make sure you're answering these every day at the end of your notes. And then finally, we have your 3 vocabulary words for the day: Giovanni da Verrazzano, Henry Hudson, and the Roanoke colony. If you have any questions, please let me know.